Rachel, hi.
Shawna, how are you doing?
There's that question again. How am I doing? I
Mm.
am, you know what? Actually, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. I've been pretty busy, but then also not overwhelmingly busy. You know what I've been doing? I've been coloring.
Same.
Are you serious?
I am not playing in your face. I just got some markers and this cute coloring book called Cozy Coloring.
My husband had these coloring books from forever ago, and I remembered they were in the basement. I literally was down like rummaging, like,
I
I'm
love
gonna
that.
find me some coloring books. Got out the Prismacolor, the fancy, I don't even have Crayolas. I got
Ooh,
Prismacolor pencils.
she got
And
money.
oh no, these things are like 20 years old, probably.
They still have
Did you?
ink?
Oh, I don't know if I've ever told you this. So, my husband, Chad, he used to be a graphic artist, like for the Air Force.
No way.
Yeah, and they don't have them anymore. The graphic artists that went away, but he was doing that work, and that meant he had to go to like art school and stuff. And so
That's
we
cool.
have all these things, and I just started. It's so relaxing.
It's supposed to be, but the way my ADHD is set up is I have to be good at it immediately. So I'm watching
Oh,
people and they're doing the shading and I'm like, ugh, it looks raggedy. Why is it not looking good? And it's supposed to be fun. And I have turned it into an obsession. So I love that you are relaxing with it. I want to be like the next coloring book artist, apparently.
well, Rachel, because you know me, you also know I don't ever color in lines. I'm just saying, like, the lines are there, they're a suggestion, and I sometimes color out of them or make my own new ones or do what I want. I just like the idea of being still, kind of.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and I like audiobooks. And so I throw on whatever I'm listening to at the moment and color. It's been, I guess, for about a week I've been doing it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I like this. We should be kids more often. You know,
I
I always
agree.
say that, like grown-ups, we forget how to play, we forget how to chill. And
You
so,
already know I'm going to go left with that. That is a key proponent of neoliberalism is making us make all of our time monetized. Even the kids are doing that. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole today.
well, a little bit. What do you mean? Even the kids are
Because
doing
we
that.
ask 5-year-olds what they want to be when they grow up. We ask children
Oh,
to dream of labor before we ask them to do anything
yeah,
else. Like,
that's
what do you
true.
like about yourself? What do you like about your friends? What do you want to do when you get home? Like, let's prepare you for work at 5.
Yeah. I
I'm not
think
into
people
it.
are kind of obsessed with identity too. And
Hmm.
so adults often I think, associate their identities with whatever their occupation is. And so they
Yes.
think that 5-year-olds have to too. You know what the bad part about that is? I love what I do, but I didn't even know it was a job until I met other people doing it. And when you're 5 or 10, there's like the 10 community jobs you learn on Sesame Street, and that's it.
Hmm. Yeah, it was like teacher, firefighter, policeman.
Who are the people in your neighborhood? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay.
You don't
That
remember
was
that song?
I do not remember that, but I'm
Are
so
you
glad.
kidding me right now?
I love that.
Rachel.
I'm gonna go look
Okay,
it
I
up.
know I'm older than you, but I'm not that much
You're
older
not.
than
No,
you.
we are
Am
both
I?
on elder millennials, friend.
I'm not a
So,
millennial, boo.
well, I mean, that
That's
was
okay,
Sesame Street,
though.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who are the people in your neighborhood?
I probably didn't watch Sesame Street. You know, I was raised by Republicans, and they didn't believe in a bunch of things. I was not allowed
You
to watch
were
Captain
not watching
Planet.
PBS. You were
I was
not
not allowed to
on
watch
the
Captain
public broadcasting
Planet.
system.
I was like, I want to watch the people save the world, and they were like, "You're gonna turn into a liberal tree hugger." Guess what, friends? I am that, and then some.
Good job. Good job. Okay, did you at least watch Fraggle Rock, or was that
Yes.
okay? Because there were tree huggers in there too. Also, Uncle
Yeah.
Traveling Matt.
Yeah, but that was probably covert. But I do remember that. And they're bringing stuff like that back. I brought a strawberry shortcake T-shirt from the
Strawberry
five.
shortcake is back?
Yep,
You know what I
at
said?
Five
Okay.
Below.
Oh, I haven't been at Five Below in a minute, but so do you ever watch Drag Race?
All the
Like
time.
RuPaul's Drag Race? Okay. So do you know Snatch Game?
Love it.
For people out there who don't know RuPaul's Drag Race and what Snatch Game is, it's basically like Match Game, except naughty, and it's with impressions that the drag queens do. And so my son, who is a drag performer, y'all follow him, the Amy Amore. I will link it in the show notes. We are always talking about when he's going to be on RuPaul and what his Snatch Game character is. And I really wanted him to be like Strawberry Shortcake at 35.
Or Rainbow
But
Bright.
Or Rainbow Bright. Oh my God. But he can't do it because copyright. He was like, I can't do copyrighted characters. But could you imagine like Strawberry Shortcake now? Like you could have so much fun with that. She's like, I had to be a child star, you guys. It was a lot. So I just went the other way.
It's strawberry
Like,
pound cake now. Like strawberry shortcake. It is.
stop it. We all be getting in pounds later. That's okay.
Woo!
Okay,
Speaking.
we have covered a lot. So let me just bring us back in. There's not even a good segue to go from strawberry pound cake to our guest. So I'm just going to shift gears immediately. Rachel, we have Ian Gibbs-Hall today. And he is a DEI advocate and a thought leader with over a decade of experience creating inclusive environments. And there's a lot of stuff going on with the world of diversity, equity, and inclusion, the DEI, the DEIB, JEDI, whatever you call it. And with all of these challenges going on, he's developed a curiosity architecture. Isn't that like right?
Curiosity
You're interested.
architecture.
Just
Let it
the
sit on my
name makes
palate
you
for a
curious,
minute.
right?
Let me
Okay.
do it.
Yes. Well, it's a groundbreaking methodology and it encourages individuals and organizations to examine and then reimagine the underlying beliefs and assumptions that basically shape what they do, shape their actions. By fostering genuine connections and systemic change, Ian's work embodies the mission of what we talk about on Our True Colors to promote understanding and inclusivity. So, in this episode, I'm going to be asking him questions about curiosity and how it can serve as a transformative tool for meaningful DEI work. Folks right now are looking for new approaches and finding understanding and meaning in this work. So, I am super excited to have him. Hey, Ian, welcome.
Thank you so much for that incredibly kind introduction. And it's great to be here, Shawna and Rachel. I'm excited to see what happens and what we
Yeah,
can learn from each other.
no doubt. No doubt. I'm excited to have you. I know I gave an introduction as to what you do, but I'd love to hear a little bit about who you are. So, what can you share with our listeners about yourself?
So right out of the bat,
Mm.
I'm a cisgendered biracial man. I am a relatively new parent. I have a 2.5-year-old who has the opinions of someone who's been through a world war, which is
Mm, yeah.
challenging in its own right and enlightening in its own right and exhausting. Always. I grew up like born and raised in the Midwest, just moved up and down. I've been kind of like racially ambiguous in places like rural Iowa, rural Minnesota. Makes for a very weird upbringing. And I haven't even thought of it. I had a lot of dogs growing up. That's a whole different thing. Like borderline too many dogs that consumed our family. It was great
Wait
though.
a minute. I have to interrupt because I have a lot of dogs. How many is too many dogs?
24 dogs, 14 cats, a pig, a sheep, and two
Okay, you
rabbits.
win. I'm just going to keep you on going. You absolutely win.
They
Never
were
mind.
all outside. We had a barn that came out twice a year. We went through 100 pounds of food a week. They were all dumped in Iowa. We took them in. They had nowhere to go, and it was our personal island of misfit toys.
Okay,
So,
stay tuned for part 2 of this episode when we learn about the dogs and the cats.
great. Dogs are
Because
great.
I'm really very curious
I
about
need to
that.
know.
But please go on.
Um, yeah, okay. Pivoting from that, I like to add who I am with how I am. And right
Okay.
now, I'm incredibly excited. Just I think being in the spaces that I've been growing up, there hasn't been a lot of other people that, I'm doing air quotes, other people that look like me in terms of skin color, race, everything. And I think being able to meet you, Shauna, and now meet you, Rachel, it's been really nice. And it's nice to feel less alone. And I have no idea where this conversation will go, and I'm thrilled to discover together.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that, adding the how I am to the who I am.
I think it's everything.
You know, you,
I can
you
talk more
talked,
about that later.
okay, we're here for it. You talked about not having a lot of people around you that look like you or that you can necessarily relate to. So, one of the big things on this show that's important to me, at least, is belonging, the concept of it, people feeling it when you don't often see yourself represented. And you're asked, whether formally or informally, spoken or unspoken, to choose a certain box to fit in, it can actually be even more isolating and feel like a greater lack of belonging, at least for me. I'm speaking for myself, but I know in speaking to guests on the show and also other folks that I've spoken to through interviews and so on, that other folks feel this way too. So, one of the biggest challenges as organizations are learning how to, and I'm doing air quotes now, do, because I don't like saying do DEI, but apply principles of diversity, equity, inclusion, is that belonging piece. And I don't know that people know how to accomplish that. They know how to diversify a hiring pool. They know what fairness looks like now, and they know what it means to include folks. But how can we truly foster a sense of belonging for folks? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it starts with authenticity. I think so many of the conversations around belonging, around, how organizations can work to promote a sense of belonging, I mainly hear of what belonging is. It's being asked to dance, not just being invited to the dance, which I love that metaphor, and why it's important. And don't want to disagree with any of those, but I think the how is missing from so many of those talking points and so many of those discussions. And I strongly believe that the how is authenticity. And to kind of go back to the boxes that you talked about and how those can be isolating, I think so much of diversity, equity, and inclusion does the necessary work of promoting awareness that the world in which we live is built on identity. Within the social hierarchies that we have and the way that policies, processes, and ways of thinking are structured, we are labeled, we are grouped, we are characterized with certain narratives and assumptions of what we should do all the time.
Mm.
And so much of, I think, DEI kind of stops there. It's trying to promote awareness that these groups exist and that there is a power dynamic. There is an oppressor and there's an oppressed, and that is so necessary. And we need to go a little further. I think as people, as a collective, we need to understand that every individual in each of those groups is so wonderfully and overwhelmingly complex in ways that we can't fully imagine, that we need to lean in a little bit instead of going, oh, you look this way and you have that skin color and you're from that and you like that sports team, so you're this. That could be true. And there's so much we can never know about someone else, but we have to try.
Yeah. And you used that analogy about being asked to dance. And I've heard another version of that that builds on it. It says like diversity is being invited to the dance, inclusion is being asked to dance, and I've heard belonging is asking what music you want to dance to. And I was like, I love that because it gets into like what you just said, being intentional about getting to know people. Like, yeah, you can come and you can dance, but it's my music. So like it or not. But then asking folks, what is it that's important to you then that you could bring to this space that we're sharing? So I dig that. What comes up for you, Rach?
Oh, but I think that last comment you made is what it is, right? Like, you can come to my party, but I'm going to play the music I want and I'm going to have the hors d'oeuvres that I'm into, and, you're going to deal with it. That's how things have been constructed up to this point. And I think there's this tension between what we know we should be doing and what's comfortable, right? Remember that show Sweet 16 that used to come on MTV? That's what it reminds me of. It's like, I want all of these things and it's going to be this way, and there better be a car parked out front for me. And if it's not, I'm going to throw a tantrum. And I think metaphorically, that's kind of what we get when we're trying to get other people's input and preferences and all these things. And then there's this pushback because, like, no, I want it this way because it makes me comfortable. I like to listen to these things. These are my favorite foods. You're just going to have to go do whatever you do when you mind your own business.
Yeah. And how many times do we do that in a space? Oh, it's okay that your space isn't meant for me. I'll
Yeah.
just assimilate and do the best I can to feel like I fit here and that I can also have the same fun as everybody else or the same experience or whatever. And so, in a way, we do our best, I think, to lean into our authenticity, but we still need, I believe, the spaces to accommodate us in a way. to even be
Hmm.
authentic, to even.
And I'm curious what Ian thinks about this, like this idea of this like rugged individualism we have as Americans. It's like a this unspoken sort of expectation. So how do you pair that or think about that concept and being authentic and not being overly individualistic, right? Like how do we look at
Mm.
communal aspects of authenticity?
Y'all, he's rubbing his hands. He's ready.
Rachel, that is such a phenomenal question. 'Cause I think it highlights the way that we use words and how words don't mean the same thing for everyone. When I say individual, I mean like the one of a kind experience that everyone has that no one else can truly understand. I think the one that you're like referring to is like me, like it's ego.
Yeah, the Sweet
And
16.
uh and I don't know this for a fact, but I know it to be true. It's a pattern that I've seen. It's what I base all of my work off of. But I think so much of the divide that we have in this country, around the world, everywhere, it's like, yes, there is hatred. There's a lot of self-interest. There's a lot of like polarizing things. But I think that that polarizing piece comes from different levels of awareness. And that on one side, those who have benefited from like the way that things are, they are clinging to that status quo. And it's, I think, Rachel, to your point before, it's like there's a sense of comfort that comes with it. It's like, oh no, please don't change this. Because like right now, I've got a pretty good life. Like I have a job I don't have to do much for because I just have to fit the role and then everything works. And I have status, I have power, I have a jet ski. Jet skis are great. Let's just stay here. Don't make me do something different. It's believing in the meritocracy, or it's believing that if you work hard, things will pay off, and that you got where you are because of, everything that you've done, which is true. And the foundation that all of that is on is that some people, a lot of people, most people are oppressed to allow for that outcome to occur. So this like, no, I want to protect this. Like, let me have whatever. It's like, oh no, just don't show me what's behind the curtain, because then that's going to unravel everything that I know. And it could take away some of the power that I have. And please don't do that because I really like my jet ski.
What a dichotomous situation to be in. I think about that all the time. The clinging to power and privilege, but resisting the truth of why that is. And yep, that's always the issue. Is there's denial that there is that head start, but please don't make me give it up.
And then there's a denial of that because when you think of folks that have been marginalized in other ways, like perhaps they are in poverty, they don't have great educational systems and so forth, right? And there is hard work that was done. And there's this perception that we're telling them that like they didn't work hard and they had everything handed to them. So privilege is
Hmm.
conflated with like wealth when privilege
Yeah.
can mean a ton of things. And that inability to see that yes, you worked hard, but look at how much harder this other person has to work by virtue of identities that are not privileged in our society. And then we promote individualism, but we don't promote reflection. We don't promote that intrinsic knowledge of self. We promote taking care of self and prioritizing self, but we don't help people understand who they are, what they think,
Hmm.
why they think, and do that internal work.
Well, maybe that's a good place to pivot a little bit to what you do. Because I'm thinking about that reflection piece and also that, Rachel, you're talking about we don't really promote that. So leaders are perfectly positioned to help foster some of these things, but not all do and not all know how to do that. So as I think about authenticity and how we'd like to encourage folks to show up, what kinds of things get in the way of helping people or leading people authentically?
Whether we're cool with how things are with the status quo, or we even can go one step below and see like, oh no, there are identities here that allow this reality to occur. There is still an expectation of how things should be, what you should do, what is right, what is wrong, what is your role, what's the narrative that follows you.
You're saying
And
for leaders, they're getting caught up on the should.
I think everybody, I see this constantly with my 2.5 year old as he's growing up. Like the way that we are framing how everything works is like, oh well, that it's match this with that. What is the right answer? This is a blue square. Where's the blue thing? Like, put it together. So leaders, people that find themselves in leadership roles, and from my experience, are bound by this idea that they have to get it right. They need to do the right thing next. It's up to them
Sure.
to lead courageously. It's that rugged individualism. Who will save us from all this? Who's the next president that's going to pull us out of the mire of all the stuff that we're dealing with? As opposed to looking at a leader, someone who brings people together, who doesn't have all of the answers, but can identify the common intent that brings people together and that recognize what each person brings to the table, and then lets either the problem fully show itself and then a solution show itself based on who's in the room. Like
Yeah.
that to me is leadership. But instead, it's like, no, you have to give them a sword or a machete and they got to hack through and they have to
Mm.
prove how effective they are. And that doesn't help anybody, especially the leader.
I
Um,
love that you said that. I work with a lot of emerging leaders, people who are either being prepared to take over a role or they're brand new in the role. And many of them like really struggle with, I have to know the answers. That imposter syndrome is so real to them because they feel like, oh, I have this title now, or I'm about to have this title, and I can't let them know that I don't know. It's like the Wizard of Oz, right? Like they can't ever know that I don't know what I'm doing yet. But the style of leadership that you described is much more of like a coaching leadership space or that developmental leader who just brings people together and says, all right, what we got? What can we do? Rather than let me just tell you everything I know and I shall hand down my knowledge to you because they don't actually have it, or none of us have all the knowledge anyway. So, and then I think that is also a good place to sort of ask you about your concepts with curiosity and what curiosity architecture is. Because I feel like if you've got a whole bunch of people in a room and you are analyzing an issue, a problem, and you're looking for some solution to emerge, it's an emergent solution,
sure, sure.
that you would have to have some sort of curiosity and humility, I would say, to allow that solution or those solutions to emerge. That's my interpretation of when I think about curiosity architecture, but I'd love for you to tell us about it.
Yeah. Uh, so curiosity architecture is, it's a structured framework that, not to sound too like, try to sound prolific or anything, but can serve as a portal to find different levels of awareness that will let us find connection with each other. There is 26 personas, 26 states of being that I've identified and flushed out, and through that have found three levels of questions that help people like uncover the beliefs that they hold, whether they're aware of them or not,
Oh,
explore what realities those beliefs create to see how our current situation that we're in could be caused by the lens that they view the world through, and then reimagine what world we could be in together if we shifted those beliefs ever so slightly. And so it's not about convincing anyone. It's not about telling them what is right or what is wrong. It's about sitting together and truly being open and asking, what's that like? And listening. And then trying to see, okay, well, this is what I believe. This is what I see. What do you see? And over time, lead to a few paradigm shifts. Something clicks, or at least it can click if you just keep doing
yeah.
this over and over and over again. And so that's what it is. It's to bring people together. It's to look past the labels, the boxes, the narratives. It's to look past identity. We still need identity because everything that we've built is on that and it's given so much structure and meaning. But then see, oh, that's just the veil. Who are we? How are we beyond it? Oh,
I know. English doesn't have enough words. I feel like we need another word for identity because when you just think about like what's in your wallet, an ID, it is just a representation, a very superficial one of who you are, but we're so much more than that, than those individual little labels on our IDs. And there's this space that a lot of mixed race people, multiracial folks hold where because we're often in this liminal space where we are not either this or that, again, that's why my book is called This, That, and the Other, right? Where there's almost a power in that to be able to hold the all of it and maybe come in with more curiosity than someone who hasn't had the same exposure to the same lived experiences that we've had, where we've been in this liminal space, this in between. Ian, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time, I thought it was a curse. I thought, you know, being a shade of gray when everything else is black and white is like, oh, like what is wrong with me? Why can't I just blank? Growing up in rural Iowa, it's like, well, I'll do what I'm expected to do. I'll grow my hair out. I'll wear the stuff. I'll do like, and I'm like, oh, but I also like love John Denver. So like, what does that mean? Like, what is happening?
I
And
did laugh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Ian. Sorry to cut you off. You and my mom, like my mom is like the only black person on the planet that loves John Denver. So like, Ian can be added to that.
great stuff. Good, like, I mean, that's one of the things that always got me. Like I mean, what middle school I would do, I mean, like I would do everything I could to try and be quote unquote, from what people told me in rural Iowa was black. I wore Birdman lugs, South Pole pants, and I was like trying so desperately, like this is what you want me to be. Like, but I still love Harley Rae Jepsen. It's great. Like I can't. I like right now, like it's still like my number one song that I like loop is anything by Alanis Morissette.
Oh my God, I was listening to a lot of Morissette this morning. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Total, I just went back to Jagged Little Pill this morning because why not?
Oh yeah, that is the album.
Not to like lay claim to anything, because I found Jagged Little Pill very late. But as of last year, I was in the 0.005% of all Alanis Morissette listeners. Like
That is
just makes sense to
bananas.
me. It's yeah.
So this does not make me feel bad for being in love with like Hanson when I was in high school.
Bop,
Yes, you did.
Thank
ba-da,
you.
ba-da,
Oh,
bop. Yeah, also,
15-year-old
Ian, I
me is mad about
spontaneously
that.
sang. I'm sorry. What happened?
Keep going.
It's a
It's
treat
doing
when she
great.
does that. But yes, my well, I think that also goes back to Ian, how like you were talking about like how are you I don't want to say the word cosplaying. How are we putting on the racial guise of how people identify us? And even though I am mixed, my mom's black, my dad's white, I was raised to have an affinity for like whiteness. So remember we had them Teen Bop magazines? My entire wall was yellow and you couldn't see it because it had Taylor Hanson, Devin Sawa, all of these white boys. And like it was cool for a while. And then I found me a Shamar Moore picture and your girl's eyes were open to the other side. And all that came down, and then came Vin Diesel and The Rock and all these other, you know, aspirational sort of imaginations of my 16-year-old self. And it was like I needed permission to be or do or like or appreciate something else. And like
Mm,
there's this caricature I was putting on because the expectations of like kind of my family that
yeah.
kind of felt okay because I was like also an Aerosmith girly, Alanis Morissette, all of that
Yes.
stuff. Like I wasn't allowed to listen to hip hop or rap or anything like that. So all the little dances y'all can do, the Roger Rabbit, I just stand there and look stupid because I don't know how to do them because I wasn't allowed to. I was allowed to listen to New Kids on the
Mm.
Block and Ace of Base and Mariah Carey because Mariah Carey was mixed. So of course,
Well, so is The Rock and Vin Diesel, so you kind of were making your way.
I was ebbing my way into it because now I am definitely a Kofi girly. Let me tell you. I have just ebbed all the way to the other side. But it was kind of like that inching into that, right? Because like we talk about skin tone, lighter skin is preferable under colorism than darker skin, right? So in my mind, just like in I think in reality, that was like an easier transition into experimenting with what do I like to see and associate myself with. And we're talking about Taylor Hanson too, Shamar Moore. That was like that is not a bridge too far for the way I was raised and kind of indoctrinated racially.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if I've ever told this story before, but during my middle school years, I had moved from Alaska, where I grew up, to Pittsburgh. I think we were there for 5 or 6 years. And during those middle school years, of course, the most awkward, self-conscious years, I started to learn more about hip hop and kind of I mean the 90s hip hop though was kind of amazing. Like R&B, R&B and hip hop was amazing in the 90s. But that was sort of the space I was kind of growing up in there. I had also gone to a Christian school. So there was also the what I was listening to on the bus versus showing up and going to chapel as the deer panteth for the water. Okay, Jesus. So like that, I had to do that. But then I was like, listen to Tone Loc on the way home in the bus. Okay, so that's kind of how that went. Moved back to Alaska, but then I didn't have to go to Christian school anymore. I went to public school, and all my friends were like, "Oh, Shawna, don't become secular. Don't be worldly." I was like, "You don't know how worldly I'm about to be." Like I was so excited. I was so excited. But what happened was this. The group of friends that I found myself with, they liked like B-52s and the presidents of the United States. And I totally started getting into like Seattle Garage Band stuff. So I went from like Tone Loc and Shy to, presidents of the United States singing Peaches and everything. Well, I saved my little monies working at Blockbuster and flew back to Pittsburgh to visit my friends. And I was playing different radio stations. I don't remember the one radio station, but this was the day of like Rump Shaker. It was like that time. So my friend Heather, who is white, was like singing Rump Shaker, but then we'd go for a ride and I'd turn it on to B94, which was the alternative music. And she actually, like after that visit, no longer would be my friend because she said I was trying to be white. And I'm like, girl, you're white. But she didn't want to be white or she didn't like that culture or whatever. And she thought I was becoming a caricature of something and would not allow me to explore this other music that I mean, I did it anyway, but you know what I'm saying? Like I was judged for it. And so that's a memory that really stands out to me. It's like, how come I can't just like all this music? I can like Rump Shaker. I can like Shy. I'm totally loving Belle Biv DeVoe and Bobby Brown, all that, but also, um, Pearl Jam is kind of cool. Like,
Yeah.
I
But how does
liked
she
both.
get to be the arbiter of your identity? Like the audacity to be
People
able to
do.
think that they can be the arbiter of your identity is wild to me.
And also what your identity means, like those associations. So anyway, that's what was coming to mind for me is it's like because we look a certain way, also I would say because of the one drop rule, we're automatically supposed to be all this one identity and then whatever is associated with that. By the way, Black folks do love other things. Go check out the episode with CJ Gross where he's like he's got his I don't think it was a jet ski and maybe he was just going skiing or whatever. He's like I'm learning all this new stuff. Um just because you hold a certain social identity or the construct of whatever this race is that folks have slapped this label on you does not mean you can't be a whole person and like other things.
Yeah. So, Rachel, your question before, like, who is she to be the arbiter of your race, of your identity? It made me reflect on so much of like what I experienced growing up as a kid, which was, I think, the classic microaggression of like, where are you from? And when you get that so many times everywhere you are, and it's rural Iowa, it's like northern Minnesota, there's a pattern of, at least that I saw as a kid, of people like being concerned. It wasn't this like anger. It was like, no, like I don't know how to treat you. I don't know how to label it. You're not this, you're not that. What are you? And I'd be like, oh, I'm like, my dad's black, my mom's white. I'm here. And like, oh, so you're black. Okay, okay. Like as once they could label it, there'd be this release, this like, oh, okay, okay, that's how I'll treat you. But you're also like different, so I'll like, bully you and stuff. But it's this like needing to know something. How should I be around you? What is the expectation? I have this belief that like almost you can trace back any instance where someone is like angry. If you ask them why enough, they will get to a foundation of, because I don't know, like I'm scared. Like anger is still like a natural response to fear. And it feels like so many people are afraid because no one knows what the heck is going on. And we're not curious enough to go, what's this like for you?
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's a terminology for it that's escaping me for at the moment. But it was like what you were talking about, like I need to know how to treat you based on these very fundamentally slim categories. And it was the idea of like, who is like slaveable, who is marginalizable by virtue of what we have fundamentally collectively agreed upon is an identifying factor. So, for example, when you think of who does domestic labor, we imagine, because we have been taught under patriarchy, that women do that. And so now when you have folks that identify as men doing these domestic things, then there's this ascription of meaning to that, that is, it is like you are just doing subordinate work because that is women's work.
Mhm.
And as we are evolving as a people to understand that everybody should know how to wash dishes and fold clothes, we are trying to take away those labels that people have constructed societies around. So if we say this group is not marginalizable because of skin tone, gender, whatever, then we are saying that everybody now is on this level playing field of who should be able to do what. And that fundamentally takes away people's power, because then they say, well, I therefore have to treat you like I would treat somebody that looks like me. And there's some equity there that I don't want to admit that other people should have.
Oh my gosh, Rachel, you know what comes to mind when you say that? When people have sort of associated a certain role, whether it's a domestic role or not, and you talk about who people think should be doing whatever housework and so on, if they do switch that role up, it somehow has to be like fetish size. The first thing that came to my mind was the sexy Mr. Clean. Like it can't just be a dude cleaning. Did you ever see that commercial?
Yes, I did. And it's so annoying. Like, please vacuum this floor and get out of my face. Like, it is not that serious. It really is not that crucial. But like, patriarchy survives under the determination. That's like this thing where people on the right are calling, liberal men soy boys because they like are in touch with their feelings and like
I
can
have
say
never heard
words
that
and
before.
read things. And somebody that I know used that term, and I was just like, well, every soy boy that I know has a partner and you don't. So maybe there's something to that emotional intelligence piece, perhaps.
I think what has happened to men, mostly straight men, in this world is tragic because the only way that we can truly define what an identity is, and a lot of this is from the work of Kwame Anthony Appiah. He's a philosopher who wrote the book The Ethics of Identity. And I love that text. No one knows what an identity is. There is no commonly defined narrative that says, oh, this is what it means to be black, this is what it means to be white, this is what it means to be a man, woman, etc. It's mushy. And right now, so many people are operating as if like it's defined and you need to be this way. But one of the things that it's emerged for me is like what makes the most sense with identity. What is always true is that you can define them by what they are not. I think being mixed race, it's always well like, oh, what are you? Well, you're not white, so you're something else. You are othered. Other. The actual definition of other is one that is not already mentioned. Like if we have these dominant identities, what isn't there? Like, well, your skin's a little brown, hair a little curly. Uh, Look at your that side frame. Like, no, you're not one of us. You're over here. And so if we take that concept of like, well, being a man just isn't being a woman, masculinity is just not femininity, and looking at it as an either or, not a both and, we have generations of half the population not knowing themselves. Because if we break down femininity to what it is, it's self-awareness. It's a connection to how you feel and who you are, and it's knowing like how you feel in any given moment. It is the appreciation of life around you. It is wonderful. It is powerful. It's strong. And as I think this, like I become more like flexible because I'm not like bound by like, oh, I have to just deadlift every day. It's like, no, if you work on your flexibility, you get like remarkably strong. It's really cool. But like that's flowy, that's feminine. It's like cool, like great. So we've created this binary where men are expected to, they are told to put themselves away. Don't feel anything, don't cry, don't show vulnerability in any way because that's weak. Being yourself is weak. And instead we have this road to misogyny.
Well, what I'm wondering about, and this isn't meant to be any sort of metacognition here, but I am wondering, when we start talking about curiosity and wanting to have people experience that curiosity, how we can grow from it, it seems to me like there can be fear that gets in the way of being curious. Like people can be very afraid to allow themselves to be curious. Like, what are the risks there? I mean, I that's kind of a rhetorical question. I know we could probably list all, a ton of risks. I'm just saying, how do we help folks feel okay with a little bit of risk so that they can get the benefits of curiosity?
I want to go back to your earlier question, like before Shawna, about like leadership. I think
Hmm.
this goes back to having people that can act as catalysts or curators of space to let participants know that if they engage with that curiosity, if they discover something about themselves that was once unknown and now it is known, that they'll be okay, that they won't be outed or ousted or fired or on the street. That like, hey, if something comes out, like if you laugh and you snort or you share us like your deepest darkest, like that's fine. Like we're here for it, and not to blame you or shame you or make you feel guilty, but like we genuinely want to know. Like if you can create instead of control, if you can create something together, I think that's what you need. I can't believe I'm doing this. Going to Frozen. Like if you watch those two, the first and the second, as many times as I have, and you imagine yourself as Elsa, something really cool can happen. There's three songs that you play back to back. You're like, this is cathartic. If you do Let It Go, Into the Unknown, Show Yourself. Every person can be Elsa. Let go of the trauma and the beliefs of what you once were. Go into the unknown. Yeah, I'm afraid of what I'll what's it? I'm afraid of what I'm risking when I'll follow you. Like, and like find out what that is. And then at the end, you can remember who and how you are, as opposed to all this stuff that's been distracting us and keeping us separated.
I love that. Um, no, that's really great. I haven't watched the second Frozen. I did see the first one in theaters with my second graders back in the day, but we can learn a lot, can't we? I think as as you went back to that space of leadership and that curation of space, that psychological safety has to be so established so that the folks there can trust that that space will be held for them, that they can be who they are going into the unknown. And that's scary.
Hmm.
It's so scary when we're faced every day with judgments and real life consequences that we see happening these days with people who are frankly freaked out about identity and what their beliefs about identity are and what the realities of identity are. And that fear is manifesting in some concrete ways that hopefully we have enough people in our society to be resolute enough to protect those spaces so that we can continue to be who we are authentically. I have realized that it's just gone so fast. So, Ian, thank you for joining us today and having these really meaningful discussions. This was so good. Appreciate
Oh,
it.
thanks for having me. Thanks for the opportunity and for sharing your perspective. And I learned so much, and it was great to get to know you more and be a part of this.
Yeah. No, we appreciate it. Is there anything come to mind before we close?
Protect your peace, friends. In the today of things, joy is resistance and the onslaught of all of the information that we are bombarded with on a regular basis. And as I always like to say, drink your water, mind your business, and find those small opportunities to be great.
Awesome. Where can folks find you and keep up with all the amazing stuff you're doing? I know you've got some stuff in the works.
Yeah. So my website is whatifblueprint.com. And then if you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, anything, or want to learn more about curiosity architecture and how it could benefit you, email me anytime. I'm just Ian at whatifblueprint.com, or I'm on LinkedIn, and would love to hear your perspective, what you think, and see what we could build together if you're curious.
Perfect. Well, thank you, friend. I really appreciate you coming on today. Thanks, Rachel, for hanging with us too.
It's always a good time.
I agree. I agree. All right. Take care, everybody.